expressiveartworkshops.com. Hello, welcome to Decide, Part 1 of the Dive Deep Journal course. I'm Shelley, and I'm so excited that you're joining me. If you don't know about my work in the world, I can tell you that I'm an artist, and my personal expressive art practices focus deeply on the art of healing emotional pain. That is, in fact, why I became a counselor, because I have done a deep amount of personal research on the origins of emotional pain, because I've struggled with a lot of it myself. Some of the biggies for me have been self-rejection, low self-worth, and a lot of shame as well. So, exploring my own emotional pain as well as the pain of others, I have found that there are patterns in our emotional pain that are common to all of us, and I've developed quite a feminine way to heal emotional pain, which I will share with you in this course. So let's begin. What is arising for healing in your life right now? Number one, what hurts? What emotionally hurts inside might be obvious to you, actually. You could be struggling with strong or distinct feelings of sadness, fear, or anger, in which case you could simply set an intention to unravel this sadness, fear, or anger in your journal. And I say unravel because emotions have many layers, shapes, tones, colors, and so on, all of which can be spontaneously expressed in your art journal. Now, the second question is, where do I feel sore or contracted in my body? Now, physical pain is a powerful indicator of emotional pain. Whenever we hold in and repress emotional pain, we get sore. We contract our muscles and tissues around a pocket of emotional pain in an effort not to feel it. So the body expresses the metaphor of our emotional pain really well. If you're not voicing your anger, for example, you might have a sore throat or a burning stomach. So often, simply sensing into the place that hurts the most in your body will point to where you most need to emotionally heal right now. The third question is, what feels unknown? Often we do not know what we need to heal on an emotional level, and this is because it's in the dark, it's in the shadow, it is unconscious, and yet something that we do not yet know is still pressing forward for our attention. This vague unknown emotion might be coming up at first as feelings of shame or embarrassment or anxiety or fear or dread. And this is what's so wonderful about creating art to heal ourselves emotionally. We really do not need to know what we're feeling because the art will give us the message. Our art will help us to see what we're feeling. The magic of deciding. For part 1 of the Dive Deep course, I'm going to invite you to decide upon what you want to heal emotionally over the next 30 days. And during the entire Dive Deep course, I'm going to share some of my own art and written journals with you so that you can get a sense of how I have used art journaling to emotionally heal myself. I define emotional healing as learning to love all aspects of ourselves, from the highest to the lowest. This means learning to love the places that feel emotionally needy, scarce, afraid, ashamed, hurt, or unseen. Emotional healing also involves loving and accepting our highest and brightest qualities, because if we grew up in an atmosphere where few people were expressing their highest selves, our divinity, our greatness, and our gifts and talents may have been ignored, disregarded, or even outright rejected. You might be new to art journaling, or likely if you're taking this course, you might be very experienced, and I welcome you either way. And I want to share some of my most simple journals and also some of my more complex and developed journals. So you can see my progression from really not knowing how to draw very well in the beginning to developing an eloquent, personal language of intuitive expression that has supported me to heal. And somewhere along that trajectory, you'll hopefully be able to choose a method of art journaling that feels just right for you right now. So to begin with, I want to share some of my simple journals, because sometimes we just do not know what we want to heal, but we know what we want to feel. So if you are just beginning your expressive art or writing practice, dedicating a journal to expressing what you want to feel will begin the process of emotional healing. Now, in my case, when I was feeling repressed and unknown to myself, the only thing I wanted to feel was more joy. And as my life started to calibrate towards more joy, everything that stood in the way of joy came up for healing. So the next few journal spreads are from some intentional journals that I created in my 20s, when I expressed what my life could look and feel like if I felt joy. And all that I understood really when I was in my 20s was that I felt separate from joy. So I decided to dedicate a series of journals to collecting quotes and images that brought me joy. So you could decide to dedicate an entire journal to only one question around how you want to feel, such as what brings me joy, what makes me feel grateful, what helps me to feel happy, and to explore found imagery in this encouraging way opens the door to emotional healing. Now, expressive journaling for emotional healing does not always have to feel heavy and hard, and part of learning to feel better emotionally involves learning how to play again. We can feel so heavy and serious in our emotional pain, so finding ways to play every day with spontaneous art, color, and words creates a new window into feeling better. I wanted to show you this journal of my initial drawing style, which was very basic. My earliest expressive journals were so simple, just words and images and really simple drawings like you see here. So art journals can just begin as a way to learn how to dream again when we feel hopeless or depressed, and we can begin to contemplate how we want to uplift ourselves out of our emotional struggles. Very early on in my art journaling journey, I could see that I was made of opposites, with the main polarity being my bright soul self, contrasting with my emotionally hurting human self. Now, emotional pain in my experience is ultimately a spiritual dilemma, because whenever we feel hurt, we separate away from love. We become very small. We close down our life force and we pull away from other people. We forget our authentic gifts and talents, and we start to see ourselves as others see us, which is most often quite limited. So knowing that emotional pain indicates areas of our inner life that feel separate from love, we can gently invite up hurt aspects of ourselves from the basement of our psyche to become known, and to become loved. And when we learn how to love ourselves despite the hurt that we have felt from the past, we recover our soul beauty. We discover our gifts and our purposes. When we understand our emotional pain needs to come up into our conscious mind and heart to be loved and accepted, then we can trust this benevolent process of transforming the dark into the light. And often we do not need to dive that deep to figure out what's bothering us. Most often our emotions are persistent. They're right here. They're bugging us, trying to communicate. They're trying to feel accepted. The journal spread that you see here shows how my intuitive drawing style developed over time to more eloquently express my emotions as I practiced every day. And it expresses in furious detail a very uncomfortable period of my life when my spiritual self wanted to come forward and my familiar mind wanted to hang on. In this sketchbook, I was journaling about the loss of my job in interior design. I was fired suddenly one day from a job I actually hated. It was a job that did not fit me anymore. And on the right side, you can see my soul was pressing in, asking me to open up my heart and move into a more caring profession. And this was a drawing that I did just before I started my art facilitation and art studio work. Admitting your struggles. Looking at and admitting to outer problems and struggles in your life will also point to what is arising for your emotional healing right now. You might be struggling, for example, with money issues, career problems, relationship problems, or loss and grief, to name a few. And if you're not sure what's pressing forward from your inside, your subconscious mind and heart that's coming up to be loved and healed, you need only really to look at what you are most upset about in your outer life to help you decide upon what you would like to emotionally heal over the next 30 days. In this sketch, for example, I was dealing with the loss of my daughter. She wanted to try living with her dad for a year when she was 8 years old, and not only was I missing her terribly and at a loss without my mum role, but it also left me without child support, and I had to figure out how to survive financially when all my old ways of being in the working world prior to being a mum were not fitting me anymore. This art journal was filled with financial uncertainty and money fears as I tried to figure out how to translate my love of art and my desire to care more deeply for people into financial abundance. So as we wind down part 1 of the Dive Deep course, hopefully by now you've pinpointed and decided upon something that you want to emotionally heal. And I want to extend a few things to you around overwhelming emotions. So if your emotions are feeling overly intense through this process, it's helpful to art journal only for a short period of time every day, maybe 15 minutes. Then close your journal and take a break. And there's different ways you can shift your energy. I like to drink water, go for a walk in nature, watch a movie, take a nap, or take a hot bath after emotional processing. And I always like to say to people, we get hurt in relationships and we heal in relationships. So the process of human socialization causes us to reject aspects of ourselves that weren't accepted in the past. So these pieces need to be reclaimed and loved. And if you feel comfortable sharing your healing process honestly with at least one trusted other during this course, it will support your self-acceptance process. And I also like to urge, if the pain is so overwhelming that it almost feels impossible to handle it yourself, I encourage you to seek professional support or deep loving connection with supportive people. If you're alone, pray for spiritual support. I feel and have directly experienced that we are supported with spiritual support when we are emotionally hurting. And so you can invite your guides, your muses, your angels, and your ancestors to support you if this feels real for you. So as we bid our adieu to part 1 of the Dive Deep Journal course, I invite you to decide upon one area of your emotional life that you would like to heal before you move on to part 2, where we will proceed to dedicate a journal, specific art materials, and a creative modality to your emotional healing process. See you in part 2, and much love. ExpressiveArtWorkshops.com